Welcome to 5 Points of Articulation, where I review action figures and then articulate 5 points to help you decide if you want to add that figure to your collection. The 5 points I discuss are packaging, presentation, posability, playability, and price. I'm Jason, and in my last video I kicked off a new 7-part series exploring the Marvel Legends Stilt-Man wave. If you missed that video, I'll have a link at the end of this one, but for now we're going to continue by taking a look at Frogman. Taking a look at the packaging, and the first thing that you might notice is that Frogman is not specific to any title in the Marvel Universe. Instead, he is just simply Marvel's Frogman. As always, the nice big open window shows you everything you get, and if you've noticed this empty spot here, you might think I am missing a piece, but that is not true. I accidentally dropped the box in the store, hence this damage right here, and now it's just rattling around inside the box. Then on that box we can see Frogman on one side, on the other, and on the back. Eugene Patilio suits up as Frogman in a misguided attempt to restore his family's good name. And of course down here we can see the other figures in the wave that we need to complete Stilt-Man. Hopefully this box will open up a bit better than Gwen's did. Oh, I've already ripped it. Oh yeah, easy peasy. If only this had been taped in place like the hands, and maybe it wouldn't have fallen out. But on the plus side, there's no straps or anything holding him in place, so he should pop out just fine. Yep, it's a Marvel Legends box, probably the gold standard for action figure boxes, so of course no surprise there. For packaging, 1 whole point. Getting Eugene out of that package, and you can see that he stands at around 6.5 inches. With Spider-Gwen, I was gushing about just how similar to the movie the head sculpt is. With this one, I love it just as much, but for very different reasons. It would have been so easy just to have a big old frog head on top of a body, but they went the extra mile to put that sculpted face detail inside. You can see the nose and brow and just those white eyes popping out. It's a character that's so silly and goofy, and yet this is so sinister. I love it. Moving our way down the body, we can see he has these sort of weird kind of teardrops painted all over him, I guess to kind of suggest the texture of a frog and the ribbing that they have on them. They're all painted on very cleanly though. Nice little backpack here. This body of course is a reuse of Doc Ock, and if you look closely, you can see the ports where his tentacles would have come out of, is how the backpack plugs into the back. This belt does a nice job of hiding the diaphragm joint though. And as much as I love that goofy head, I also just absolutely adore these big floppy feet. Nice springs painted on the heels. And yet he does still have peg holes at the bottom. Not only does this share a body with Doc Ock, but it's primarily the same color as Doc Ock. Even so, I can tell these are two completely different characters, and this one is just so weird and upbeat. I love it. So for presentation, Frogman gets 1 whole point. Moving on to posability, Frogman's head is on a ball joint and also on a disc hinge. Spins all the way around, looks up a bit and down a bit. Ribbit, ribbit, ribbit. Arm comes up just past 90 degrees. Bicep swivel all the way around. Double jointed elbow. Welcome to the gun show! Wrists are on a swivel hinge, up that much and down that much. Where things get really interesting is this diaphragm joint. Because of the general roundness of the character, he gets incredible range. Back, forward, side to side, twist and shout, leg kicks out way far. The thigh cut is there, but it's really hard to move because of how loose this joint is. I try to twist a thigh and the leg just goes everywhere. Really impressive double jointed knee though. He also has a boot cut, and of course great ankle articulation. For a big chunky figure, he's surprisingly light on his feet. And speaking of feet, oops, spoke too soon. What I was about to say before he keeled over was that those giant flipper feet really help him stand, and using them you can get him into some pretty fun poses. Okay, so on the one hand he does keep keeling over, but I don't know if that's so much to do with articulation or me trying to squeeze him into poses he just can't do. Either way, very posable figure, lots of fun options. For posability, he gets 1 whole point. Moving on to playability, we can see that accessories is one area where things get kinda weird. At first, I thought that this ray gun belonged to Frogman. That is not the case. Frogman comes with alternate hands to swap out the ones he already has, and none of those hands can hold a ray gun. This ray gun is part of the Build-A-Figure. That means that Frogman gets an arm, an alternate hand, and a weapon for the Build-A-Figure, while he just basically comes with a couple of hands. And I wouldn't make such a big deal out of it except for the fact that the Doc Ock figure they used to make Frogman came with a weapon-holding hand. And he didn't even come with a weapon. And don't get me wrong, if Frogman doesn't use weapons in the comics, that's one thing. But in terms of playability, if a kid can't complete Stilt-Man, at least they can play with some of the pieces that he came with. Pond. James Pond. Da-da-dun, da-da-dun. Luckily for Eugene, playability is more than accessories. It's also about how well your figure plays with others. First off, here he is side by side with Doc Ock. The two of them obviously share the same body, but there's so much visual distinction between the two, I think that they both really stand out from each other. And Hasbro, if you're listening, which I know you're not, you can totally reuse this body again to give us the Marvel version of Santa Claus with an Infinity Gauntlet. Mix him up with some other animal-themed Spider-Man villains, and yeah, Eugene fits right in. Now, it's at this point that I really do need to add a disclaimer. There have been a couple of different Frogman characters in Marvel Comics. The original was a villain. This one, however, is based off of his son, who's trying to turn over a new lily pad and be a hero. That being said, they do share the same costume, so you could really use him for either, and you're also just as likely to see him in a Spider-Man comic as you would a Daredevil. That said, with nothing but a couple of interchangeable hands and mostly just bath pieces, is he one whole point fun? He could have come with no accessories and I still would have loved him. For playability, Frogman gets 1 whole point. This leaves us with nothing left to discuss but the price. Frogman is a big hunk of plastic and he comes with multiple bath pieces. For $20 to $25, not a bad deal. For price, I'm giving Frogman 1 whole point, bringing his grand total to 5 out of 5. In review, number 1, packaging. It's a Marvel Legends box, you can't go wrong. Number 2, presentation. Great reuse of the Doc Ock body. The new head and flippers really set it off. Number 3, poseability. You know, for a man of his girth, Frogman's a lot more flexible than I am. Still, do watch out for those loose hips. Number 4, playability. Great for the bath pieces, not so great for accessories for Frogman. Still, between Spider-Man, Daredevil, and other crossovers he's had, there are a few different collections you can put him in. Not only that, but there are hero and villain versions of that same character, so there are a few options. And then number 5, price, well, not a bad way to spend 20 bucks. In my next review, I will definitely be looking at one of the 2 Spider-Man figures in the wave. In the meantime, check out my review of Spider-Gwen or any of the other videos I have on my channel. If you enjoyed this content, like it, share it, do all the YouTube rigmarole. I'll see you again real soon, and until then, have fun.